Hello, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful episode of Conscious Health with my co host, David Ortega. And today we have a beautiful special guest with us today, which is Jennifer Lin. And we are going to be discussing the healing power of music. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction, Jennifer. I have a short bio of yours, and then would love to hear if you could please elaborate a little bit more about your journey. Let's jump into that. So Jennifer is a certified music therapist in the US and Canada, and she holds two master's degrees. So one of her masters, a Master of Music in Flute Performance from San Francisco Conservatory of Music, Master of Arts in Music Therapy from New York University. And Jennifer was a tenured professor of music therapy in Manitoba and is now based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And she's been running retreats herself, as well as being a guest of other retreats. Jennifer is also passionate about sharing music with others and is creative in developing musical experiences for a variety of ages, abilities, and backgrounds. So tell us a little bit more about your journey, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you, Natasha, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. So I started out as a professional classical musician, as a flautist, teaching flute lessons, and also performing. But after a while, I felt something was missing in my life. I couldn't tell exactly what. At that time, I was doing a lot of volunteer work in different hospitals. So someone told me about music therapy. Say, hey, have you thought about combining your passion, which is music, and helping others at the same time? I said, oh, that's fascinating. So I did some research, but back then, internet wasn't the thing. So I had to dig pretty deep on my own. And I found out about music therapy as a profession. But it takes time to go back to school to get the degree and to get certified to practice music therapy, just like any therapy professionals. So I made a decision at the end to quit my job and go back to school. So that was a very big decision for me at that time. And so I did go back to school, start from scratch, getting all the psychology courses under my belt before I could do anything music therapy related. And so fast forward, after I finished my schooling, become certified in the US and Canada, and I started working as a music therapist. And as time goes on, I really do feel I have found a profession that really combines my passion, which is music, and helping others. So through teaching music therapy, I used to teach music therapy at a university. And so through teaching, I was able to train the next generation of music therapists to do what we do. And I also got to do a lot of research and presented at different conferences. So that was great. It was a fascinating journey I had, no complaints, even though there are hard times. But I really appreciated all those experiences I gained through teaching, doing research, and presenting at different conferences, and also volunteering at our association, which is Canadian Association of Music Therapists, that governs all the music therapists in Canada. So I was the publications chair, overlooking all our publications. And so that to me was a great journey to get into music therapy, and then doing music therapy from a professional classical music background. And so to me, having that classical music background really helped me to understand why certain people aren't able to say, like play music the way how we anticipate it. Like as a music educator, you were taught by a certain number of lessons, you should be able to achieve certain levels. But when you're working with people with disabilities as a music therapist, that may not always happen. because you're working with people with different backgrounds, different disabilities, and all that. So to me, that having that strong classical music background really helped me to understand even more from a musical background rather than psychology. So I really appreciated that. So fast forward, so after teaching at a university, I found different passions. So I moved to British Columbia, and I really enjoy doing music therapy, my own private practice, and still performing. I still do performances.
Yes.
So to me, it's a perfect combination of doing everything I'm so passionate about. So that's the nutshell.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's incredible.
You, Jennifer.
Yeah. Thank you. So just would you be able to outline what exactly is music therapy?
So there are different definitions, but I'm going to give you the definition I usually give to people. Say in the elevator, you only have a couple minutes or even shorter than that. So music therapy is a combination of music and psychology or counseling, where you're able to help people through creating music or listening to music or composing music. Anything to do with music creatively. You are using music as a medium to achieve therapeutic goals. Whatever the goals can be, it could be physical, it could be mental, psychological, or spiritual. So that's how I normally explain. Of course, there are different explanations out there. They're more academically based or more scholarly based, but I tend to use that so people can understand. You're combining music and psychology or counseling. So that they understand, so you're doing kind of counseling, but you're using music. I say, yes, that's right. And for some people that they're not able to communicate verbally, music is a great way for them to express themselves, just like art therapy, dance therapy, you name it. Or so that's how they communicate. Some people communicate better through art, through drawing. Some people are better at dance. So that's how they communicate. So same thing with music therapy. You express yourself through music.
So I'm curious now of how do you start with a person? Let's say that they I don't know, let's pick an age group, and let's say that it's around from his or her 20s to her 30s, and she has anxiety problems. How does it work, or how do you start allowing that person to resolve those anxious symptoms?
Yes, that's a great question. So, of course, as a therapist, we'll do assessments, just like when you go into a psychologist or a therapist or even physiotherapist, they always do assessment. We do the same thing. So I'm not going to bore you with exactly what we do in those assessments, but basically we assess where they are at the moment when they come into the room. And our music is going to target that frequency. If we are using all the spiritual terminologies, we're going to start with exactly that frequency. So if that person is very anxious, then we're not going to start with music that's very calm, like super slow or very just like melancholy. We will start somewhere matching that frequency. So that nervousness, that anxiousness, we're going to start something like that. So the tempo, it wouldn't be so slow, it will be somewhere around there, but it won't be super fast either. So that's where we're going to start musically speaking. So of course, I'm assuming this person knows how to communicate themselves verbally. They have no developmental disabilities. So that way we can assess through verbal conversations. Then, so of course, I'm going to find out, are you more interested in trying out music that's more active playing? So you and I both playing, or are you more interested in just listening? Or are you more interested in composing music? And whenever we say composing music, that sounded so big, in people's minds. Oh my gosh, I can't compose. I said, no. Let me change that word. So how about we change the word to creating music together through writing them down on a piece of paper and you don't have to worry about writing them down. I will do the work. So we can both create the music together on paper. If you don't feel like doing it through music, that's another way of doing it. Or sometimes they may say, hey, wait a minute, I don't know much about music, but can we start by just discussing about it? So sure, let's discuss about it. So because of our training, we do have training in some counseling techniques. So we're able to do that. If people choose to do some talking before we dive into some musical experiences, that's definitely okay. So those are different ways we could assess a person where they are. So start with where they are. So let's say if this lady would like to start with music playing, so that's active music playing, then yeah, let's jam. Like in the term people normally understand, okay, let's jam. So if you like to play percussion instruments, I do have quite a few. So pick one, or if you like to play the piano or the guitar, whatever is in the room, you feel interested in picking up, please, by all means. And they could change the instrument as well. It doesn't mean they have to stick with one instrument throughout the whole time. So that's one way of starting the music therapy session. So once that lady picks up, let's say, an egg shaker, that's very small, something that you can control with just one hand. And so perhaps I'm going to play on my piano something along the way how she's holding the shaker. So the tempo, meaning the speed of the music, I'm going to match that. So I typically do a lot of improvisation. So just a little bit background about my training. So when I was at New York University, I was trained, I did my internship at the Northrop Robbins Center for Music Therapy, which is more like Rudolf Steiner's approach to music therapy. So it's play-based. So when we say play-based, that means improvisation. So I did a lot of training under that school of thought. So that influenced my session a lot when I do music therapy with people. So I tend to do a lot of improvisation. So I will look at the ladies playing, whether it's her body movement or her egg shaking, playing music. I will play on the piano, matching exactly what she's doing, trying to express what exactly she's going through my improvisation on the piano. And that's how we're going to start the music playing in the therapy session.
It replicates. What you do is you replicate the rhythm of her with the instrument that she picks.
Yeah.
And from what you said, I understand that the matching of vibration is the level of, let's say, not damage, but symptoms,
yes,
or struggle, or whatever she has stuck in her body, that is going to allow it to move, no?
Exactly. That's a great way of explaining it. So once I start matching exactly where she's at in terms of frequency with my music, I can slowly move from that frequency to something else. And that something else could be something more calm, or something more exciting, more happy, or more joyful. Depends on how she's doing. So that's why the therapist's role is super important, knowing how to match the client's state of being, rather than focusing on, oh, I'm the therapist, I know what to do, I'm the expert. So it doesn't happen that way. So in the improvisation, I basically play whatever she is feeling or she's going through. And once she's stabilized, I could suggest using music improvisation to suggest. I could play certain tunes or certain rhythms, kind of suggest, hey, should we pick up the tempo slightly faster, maybe slightly happier, and slightly more major, like in the major scales, rather than something more like minor tones. So happier tunes, perhaps. I would test it out with my music. And if she's going with me, then let's go then. Let's go that way. And if she's not ready to go it, that's okay. We're not going to push you to go that direction, because it's all about the client.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yes, that's really beautiful. And it's, well, just I just picture water. Once you start talking about these rhythms and this pace that you are matching, I picture myself just floating in water and just letting water take me wherever it goes, as the music is going to do that. And is there a part of this, let's say, this example that we are using, where you listen to her speaking about anything that is a problem for her, or there is no speaking and there is just music?
It depends. So it's tailored to the client. Some clients, when they come to music therapy, they just say, you know what? I have done enough verbal therapy. I've been to all kinds of psychotherapies. I'm done with it. I don't want to do any of that. I prefer immerse myself in the music. Whether I play or you play or we both play, we both listen, that's okay. I just don't want to do with anything to do with verbal, because I'm done with explaining with words. So some clients are like that. So that's why they chose music therapy specifically over other therapies. And some are more like, my therapist told me to try music therapy out because I'm not able to express myself verbally completely to a point where like I'm able to explain or able to express myself. So that's why they refer me to you. So can we explore maybe some of music therapy? So I know there's some hesitance there. They're not sure. So of course we're going to do both verbal and music therapy. And there's some people, they say, hey, you know what? I was referred to you. I'm not even sure why I'm here. So there's kind of like defense mechanism there. So I said, no worries. The music's always here to support you. If you don't feel like playing music, that's totally okay. But just so you know that there are choices out here for you to change your mind later on. So there are varieties. But if we say some people are very open to explore both, meaning music and verbal therapy, certainly. So some people might start out with music, like the example we just talked about. So I improvise on the piano, the lady is playing the egg shaker, and maybe like say 5 minutes into the therapy, she say, hey, you know what? That reminds me. Is whatever we just played reminds me of blah, 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 blah. Can we talk about it? I said, yeah, certainly. Tell me about it. Tell me more. So that's when the verbal therapy kicks in. We start talking, and then she might be crying. She said, oh, that reminds me, my dog died last year, whatever. So, and then I said, hey, should we play about it? Should we play about your sadness about your dog? Have you ever had a chance to express that? So no. So that might be another way of getting into therapy, using music. Say, hey, how should we play about your sadness regarding your dog who passed away last year? So maybe she said, can you play something for me? I just don't know. I'm just so sad. I need to wind down. I need to think about it. I need to meditate, whatever that is. So this is where I may do some imagery and music. So in music therapy, there's another modality. It's called guided imagery and music. So that's where I'll have the client to sit or lie down, depends on how comfortable she is. And then I'll be playing music, whether it's me on the piano again, or me singing, or using pre-recorded music. Nowadays we have Spotify, so it's much easier than CDs back then when we first started with CDs. So that will be something I could do with her. So that's more like she's listening versus she's playing with me. So through that, either she's not talking, she's in a meditative state, or I could be guiding her through the music. So it's almost like when we talk about meditation, when you go, like Natasha offers a lot of meditation sessions. So it's kind of like that, but I use music rather than just verbal guidance. So that's the difference there.
Beautiful. The power of music is incredible. And I'll never forget when I was in high school, we had a school trip that sent us out to a place called Lesotho. And it was incredible because we kind of like were immersed in one of the African tribes. And what they did was they started off with drumming, which was incredible. And they picked a few students to come into the middle and to dance through the drums. And I was so shy, which you wouldn't think of that now that I speak to so many people, but I was invited to come into the middle. And I just got so entrenched in that heartbeat of that music that when it stopped, I was actually quite disorientated. And I couldn't remember where I had sat, but that was incredible because for that space of time, I remember it's almost kind of like my body dissipated and I just became one with the music. And ever since then, I've actually realized the power of music, because I think we tend to brush it off in one way or another. And yeah, it's incredible. And then since then, I've done a lot of kind of like, in the alternative kind of like healing aspects in sound baths and working with kind of the drums and all sorts of things. But I find it very fascinating that you mentioned Rudolf Steiner. Mm-hmm. And Rudolf Steiner is a theosophist, along with Madame Blavatsky, and that's where I've met Rudolf Steiner, was from more an Akashic Records perspective, in that sense. And it actually reminded me of another and I can't forget, Edgar Cayce. Who also worked within the Akashic Records. And one of the books that I read of his, and it made absolute sense for me, was that he broke everything down into vibration and frequency. And he spoke about every aspect of us, every cell, every organ having a vibrational frequency, which in turn had a sound. And that we all have a unique sound as we walk around, almost kind of like having this orchestra playing something. And when the tone is off or the timing is off, or when there's dis-ease or discomfort, it means that one of the frequencies within those organs is not in alignment. And I think it's beautiful that you can use music to not only connect in with the mental and emotional aspect, but really release trauma from the physical structure of the body, connecting into that vibrational frequency. Is that something similar that you found, or how that you look at it from that perspective?
Yes, there is a particular modality of music therapy. So let me back up a little bit. So music therapy, just like any other field out there, the different approaches, different school of thoughts, just like psychology, you have Jungian, Maslow, Freudian, all that stuff. So same thing with music therapy. So one approach of music therapy uses toning. So when we say toning, that means you could use your own voice, whether it's me, the therapist, or you yourself, the client, or others joining the group. We use toning, like different tones. You focus on specific body part, and that's what you're working on to get activated, whether it's activating that body part, if that body part is not functioning well, or maybe it's overstimulated, whatever that is. So we use toning. So that's a specific training that some people might want to go through after graduate school. That's postgraduate school training. So there's specific therapists out there who do those kind of training. They certify people to do that. So I was exposed to that quite a bit back in New York. So I did some of that. So some people might find it fascinating. That's what they wanted to do, focus on toning, using their voice rather than instruments.
That's beautiful, because that takes me back to the ancient Egyptian times, when they used those toning in their healing chambers as well, and which is fascinating in that aspect of toning people to, even within the energy centers, the chakras, to activate them, whether it's overactive or underactive. So yeah, I find that very, very fascinating and incredible as well.
And same thing with drumming. Drumming is also very much what we do as well as music therapists. We do have drum circles. If you go to hospitals or senior homes, some senior homes, depends on how active those seniors are. Some are not so active. And then, of course, school settings, usually if you have a music therapist there, they will request drum groups, like drum circles, where they can do the drumming together in a group. So I find that people really like the drums, whether it's hand drums or those like big Congo drums. They really are drawn to it. And I could totally understand it, because it's the vibration. You feel it, not just from the sound itself, but even just touching the membrane of the drum. You feel it. You totally feel it with your fingers. So yeah, definitely drumming, toning, those are all different ways how music therapy can be assessing to people's inner heart. Because I think a lot of times when people come into therapies, whether it's music therapy or traditional clinical counseling, they don't know what's going on. Usually it's that I don't feel good. But what's the root cause? What is it? I think at the end, we have to ask your heart. We all have to ask ourselves from the heart, what is going on? So I think music, whether you like active music playing, drumming, toning, or just guided imagery, whatever the approach is, at the end of the day, it's all about accessing your heart, asking yourself, what is it? What's the root cause of all those miseries or all the issues you have?
That's funny and surprising. And synchronicity is that the heart is working as the director of the orchestra, no? It has to level the other organs or sense the other organs in order to, so that you feel what is stuck in your body. And then that frequency is going to be, as you mentioned, match, or you are going to pick certain instrument that allows you to move that energy, no, from the organ that you are having symptoms with. So that's really interesting. And no wonder I think that when we watch a movie, the frequencies and the tone of the movie matches the level of expectation that we want. No, if it's a thriller, if it's something that needs to scare us, they quickly change the music, and the music by itself, without watching, it triggers you and it makes you feel fear. Or if it's a romantic movie, you listen to the violin and to things like that, and you imagine and you picture that everything is romantic, and you need to listen to those tones whenever you fall in love or whatever happens.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because music, it's taking us through the emotions always, I think.
And without boundaries, I just want to add that, because without language barriers, without any boundaries whatsoever, it doesn't matter where you're from, whether we can communicate verbally or not, that's not an issue. It can always access to us, to the heart.
Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, I used to watch scary movies like this because of the sound.
Yeah, if you don't listen to the sound, you are not so
it's
scared.
Not so scary.
So
I don't watch scary movies anymore. But it's true. I did go to a lot of theater, and I used to go to a lot of ballets and things like that. And just the orchestra, I would actually bring, like, there would be like this overwhelm of emotion that would actually bring tears. And it's incredible how that would happen. Or, you know, or sometimes I'd go in, and it's something so silly. Like I'd go like to one of my daughter's like schools, and there'd be all these kids, like 200-300 kids would be singing something, and they would just hit this frequency, and it was just like the energy was just incredible. And it was just like, what's wrong with me? I can't even control my body, not going into those boundaries of kind of like just. And it wasn't a sadness, it was just an overwhelm of kind of like beautiful emotion and an expansion that was happening as well. So yeah, the power of music is incredible, not only in this aspect of healing, but in manifesting as well. And it's kind of like just dialing our frequency constantly with the help of music, which is incredible. And usually I say to raise one's vibration is to music is a fantastic way to shift your mood or to raise your frequency as well.
I used to, now that you're talking about all of those roller coaster of emotions, I remember when I was doing my master's in the US, And I was really, really sad because I was young. I didn't adapt to the city, and I felt, I think that that's the stage that I really felt like depressed. And the music that I try to listen to raise my vibration or to feel better was music from my country. It was not English, it was in Spanish, and it was something that make me remember some places or some people. And but I cried almost every day because of those kind of music. And it's funny because also when I want to exercise and if I'm running, I need certain kind of music, particular music that really boosts like my energy so that I can feel more. And if I'm really tired, but I listen to one song that really fires me up, I take energy from I don't know where, but I can finish the race or I can move faster. No, so that's really amazing the power that the music has to I don't know, like pull your body into another frequency and gives you whatever you need. No.
And then I will add on to that is I have done some research. It's psychology music back then. We're talking about 20 plus years ago, about how retail stores are using music to manipulate, if you want to use that word, manipulate their customers. So based on my research back then, when you go to retail stores, certain malls or certain stores will play certain kind of music because they know what kind of results they would like to get. And certain restaurants would do the same. If they want quick turnover, they're not going to play melancholy music. No, they're going to play fast. So you can turn over pretty fast. Versus some French restaurant, you're supposed to sit down and spend a lot of money, like ordering a lot of expensive wine and all that. They're going to play something slow. So you're going to take your time, look at the menu, order more. So that's also, I just want to add to it, like some businesses already realize they could use music to their benefit or to their advantage. So if they know, they will choose the music accordingly.
Yeah, they do it. And I also have listened and I also read something about that pace of music, mostly in restaurants. I didn't read something about the malls, but I read something about the restaurants. That they want you to eat more, and the music that they are playing is kind of fast paced sometimes, and then they move it up down. So they switch like depending on what they want, of course. No?
Yeah.
Adding to that, they also change the temperature so that as soon as you finished eating, you feel uncomfortable and you leave. It's true. It's like you'll see, like a McDonald's, their temperature will be quite low in that sense, so that you eat, you feel uncomfortable, and then you leave, which is interesting. Going back, so one of the things that you talked about was memory, which is important. So my daughter loves going for drives, and because she gets to play the music in the car, right? So it's one of those things, and I get to hang out with her. And there's a few things that came out. So she played one song, and I was like, "Oh my God, that was like one of my breakup songs," kind of a thing. That pulled me through a breakup, and it's quite interesting because now I have a different feeling to it. So I've obviously healed from that aspect of it. But the other thing that came through was the power of sound of our voice and the power of our words. So listening to the lyrics. Of those songs, and I was like, oh my goodness, I went through a phase of, some might be shocked, but I went through a gothic phase, and I listened to like metal and all sorts of stuff, but I could completely switch from something that was metal to a classical, like Beethoven or whatever it was, like as long as it was loud at that time, that frequency would I was absolutely fine with that. But Jennifer, can you talk a little bit, two things. One is, once the memory surfaces, does it mean it's released from the body, or that that aspect of healing is coming in? Like, how does that healing happen? And then the other thing that I was going to ask, the power of the words and how it affects our body with regards to that.
So let's say, for example, if I'm working with seniors, people in the senior homes, so they may have dementia, they might have Parkinson's, you name it, or physical disabilities by that age. So when I play certain music from their era, so Beatles, for example, most of them love Beatles, most of them. So, oh my gosh, they will get excited, and then even for the ones who are not so verbal usually, or not so mobile, once they heard something they recognize, like it's almost like a switch just turn on, and they will start talking to you, or at least they will start to look at you rather than like sitting down, kind of mind their own business in their own world. And depends on where you're going with the therapy session. So if the goal of the music therapist, or for this particular client, it's about retrieving information, trying to help them to remember things, then I could keep going with that. To say, okay, tell me more about it. Hey, what does that remind you? That's where we're going with therapy then. But if the goal, let's say in a group session, you're not able to work on each individual person's goals or objectives, then it's more about, okay, that's pretty good. We're getting somewhere. Everybody's getting pretty, upbeat by now. Then where can we go from here? Maybe it's more about that emotion, just kind of bring you out of the low vibrational frequency state that people are in. So perhaps the goal or objective might be just bring them out of it, so they remember the tunes. Okay, so everybody's more alert. Sometimes being alert is a big major milestone for seniors in senior homes. Just like that switch is like, oh, I'm alert now. I'm no longer just sitting there almost like not focusing on anything, just like dazed. So if the goal for the group is more about, okay, let's bring them all out of their own space, kind of more alert, then that's great. We'll achieve something that day. So it really depends on what you're after. But if you're really after retrieving information, trying to remember certain things, we could definitely keep going with that route. So let's say if that Beatles song works great, then we keep going with it. So I may say, hey, should we play more Beatles songs? That person might tell me, nope, I'm good with it. Can we talk about it? So that's where we are going to keep going with that direction. So does that answer your question? Number one.
Yeah.
Question number one.
And number two was, how does the words that we say influence our body? Like, I mean, I know I've done quite a lot of Reiki. We talk about Dr. Emoto looking at water, and we're mostly water. So that vibrational frequency of the words, the affirmations that we tell ourselves, whether it's mentally or verbally, how does that affect our body?
Yeah. So from a music therapy's perspective, I'm going to come in from a different angle. So because when we say lyrics, that means music in the words in the music. So for some people, the lyrics don't mean much. For some people, to me, lyrics is not the major deal breaker here. It's more about the melody. So for some people like me, for example, the lyric doesn't mean anything. So even though the song is so beautiful, it's like, it's nothing. So what we do in music therapy is called lyric rewrite. So we're going to rewrite the lyrics, even though with the same melody line, whether this is like a popular music, it could even be like a heavy metal, like heavy metal or classical or movie music. A lot of times we use movie music because people just love it. Let's say if you're working with children or teenagers, they might love cartoon music. So we might rewrite the lyrics. So I'm going to give you an example that tends to work pretty much all the sites I'm at. So if we're working with people with developmental disabilities, whether in their senior age or adulthood, they love the song from Sound of Music. It's called My Favorite Things. This always works, like always 10 out of 10. So what I will normally do is change the words. So we're going to do the rewrite all together as a group. We're going to rewrite the lyrics. We're not going to use exactly the words that's written there originally. And once we rewrite those lyrics, those words, and we sing together as a group, it means something more to everybody because they all contributed. So to me, I could see the vibrational frequency being raised up because it means something to them, finally. Rather than something is pre-written by someone else, doesn't mean much, even though the tune, the melody is great, the rhythm is great. So that's how I would explain. In order for the words to mean something, like really, really mean something to you, to have an effect, that all those words supposed to speak to you. If they don't, it doesn't mean much. So that's why as a music therapist, we need to be very flexible in terms of changing those lyrics, to change those words, to make them mean something for the client.
And I was thinking, if you have a session and then you apply these different frequencies and you start playing, and the client in that moment, let's say, as you mentioned, they can cry or something happens. Have you seen that frequently when you start these sessions, do they have changes in their body? I mean, do they detoxify or they have some process afterwards?
Yeah, so depends on what you're working towards. So with our assessments, so we would usually have goals and objectives. So if your goal or your objective is about bringing that person out of the misery or out of the anxiety by the end of each session, if that's your objective, then of course, I'm going to make sure, we start with wherever you are when you walk into a door. But by the end of the session, you shouldn't be as anxious as when you first walked in. So that will be something I will work on. But let's say if the objective is not about that, it's more about going with the flow, going with what that person is, just to have a space for that person to express themselves in a supportive environment. If that's the objective, I'm not going to do so much about, I must bring you up if you're so sad about certain things. I'm going to let you express. If you need to cry, but I'm going to be there to support you all the way through, whether it's through music or through my words or through our collaboration, whether it's guided imagery or it's more about toning perhaps, or just playing music together or lyric rewrite, composing music together, whatever it takes. Then it's more about letting you express. So expressing yourself, it may not be a bad thing. So I think sometimes people have this idea about therapy. When I go into therapy, an hour later, when I come out of it, I must feel great about myself. But if you think about it from a psychotherapy perspective, because I was trained in psychotherapy, that's quite different, because psychotherapy is about delving into that inner core and to really feel the feelings of whatever you're experiencing rather than repressing. Feeling good after an hour, of course, everybody wants to achieve that. But according to psychotherapy, it may not always be necessary. Sometimes it's all about just letting go, like just letting out, letting it go, let yourself express whatever you need to express. So we as therapists, we're there to provide that space, that safe space for them to express themselves.
Yeah. And I also was thinking that probably, for example, in Reiki also, when you have a session of Reiki, you can have diarrhea, or you can have vomit, or you can have something that you reflects that your body is detoxifying about something. So have you seen that sometimes for people it happens with music, or it doesn't happen?
In the session, when people are really sad or trigger, like the music trigger something inside of them that they've been holding on to for so long, they will sob, like really sobbing so hard in a session, and which is okay. Like, we understand any kind of therapy, is part of if you want to use the word detoxification, that's part of the letting go. So I wouldn't try to say, okay, don't cry anymore. No, cry as much as you need to, as long as you feel okay and safe to do so. And of course, when there's they're not going to cry forever. I mean, only for a little while. And then so from there on, we're going to assess. So where are we going from here? Like, are you pretty much okay with what you just let go of? Or do we need to delve even deeper into it? Do you need more support? So that's where our training comes in. Okay, we need to be able to tell what the client needs. And then we're going to go from that angle and then to support the client until the end of the session.
Okay.
Jennifer, what do you think about tools like tuning forks, or, I mean, the didgeridoo is also something that's like quite an interesting, I mean, they talk about this frequency, and I suppose it's just like the drum or anything else, but what do you think about tools like tuning forks and crystal sound bowls and things like that?
Based on my training as a music therapist, we didn't go too much into the tuning forks or the sound bowls. Those are, to us back when I was in school, that's more new age stuff. But it doesn't mean that you cannot explore, you cannot use them. It's just when we were trained in music therapy programs back at universities, they didn't teach us much about tuning forks or all that stuff. So it's more later on when I became a professional, I explore on my own and say, hey, that's interesting. We didn't get training on any of that, but I would love to know more about it. So I do know that myself, I'm pretty open to the sound bowls, because I could see how beneficial that is because of vibration it makes. Mm-hmm. However, for me, I'm quite sensitive to sound. To me, it's too loud. Like any kind of sound bowl, to me, the vibration is just too much. Like it actually hurts my ears. So I don't use them myself, simply because I couldn't stand them myself. It's too strong. Like the sound volume, too much for me personally. So if I'm not able to use them or to take on the volume of the sound bowls, I can't help my clients using that. So I don't do it. But the tuning forks, we didn't get any training on that either. But I know there are some spiritual teachers out there or spiritualists, they do use them, but I just don't know much about it.
Yeah, no, it's because some of them will vibrate at a certain frequency. So I know that, for example, I think it's like is it 528 hertz? It really resonates with love. And a lot of the time is connecting into, so I tend to find if somebody is having a lack of joy or love or for themselves, it's finding those hertz of frequency to help to raise that frequency. And thinking about it now from that perspective of frequency, so when somebody is doing, say, for example, a Reiki healing, the person is providing the opportune frequency for the healing to be allowed. Right. So it's not that we're doing the healing, but we're providing the opportunity for that healing to be done. And it's up to the patient or the person on the table to match that frequency. So I'm wondering if that works the same with the frequencies of music, in the sense of providing a float of that frequency because it has no boundaries. I'm wondering if that works in the same way, or is it because it has no boundary? Could the patient or the person still reject the healing, even though it's music?
Yeah, I can give you the group session example. So when some people, for some people, they choose the group sessions rather than individual, simply because they have reservations. They don't believe they need therapy to start with. But they know deep down they need help, but they just don't want to admit it. So in those situations, even in institutions, let me give you some examples. So when I go into different institutions, they already set up different group times on their schedule. So people can choose to come in or not. It's up to you. So you could tell some people, they come in, they're angry, or they don't really want to be there, but they just want to check it out. But deep down, they really want to be there, but they just kind of show it differently. And so their frequency, I wouldn't say very high when they first walked in, because with that kind of attitude, but you could tell they really enjoy just being there, even just kind of like being part of the group, whether they really wanted to participate actively or not. But seeing other people picking up instruments, playing things with me as their therapist, and sometimes they might just kind of sit down and kind of pick up like a little hand drum kind of start playing with us. So by the end of the session, I could tell as a music therapist, it's pretty good. He's doing well. His vibrational frequency has raised up quite a bit compared to when he first walked in. So I think I'm answering your question in this way, in a way that some people may not realize that, but by just being there or just checking it out, they call it, I'm just checking out. They might stand like right at the door. Just, I'm just checking you out. It's okay, please do, check us out. And then there's our chairs, instruments, feel free to help yourself. By the end of it, his vibrational frequency completely changed without having actively say, I'm participating in your group. So that's a different way of seeing how people are changing their vibrational frequency.
Beautiful.
Which is what happens when you go also to a concert that probably you didn't want to go. And after 2 or 3 songs, you are singing and you are laughing and you really change your mood just because of the music, no? And many, many examples of those places where you go by force and then you leave with a smile and you raise your frequency, no? And what can you say about the solfeggio frequencies? How were you trained in those frequencies? Do you know something about them?
Solfeggios?
Yes, the solfeggio.
No, we didn't talk much about solfege frequencies. It's more like in music theory, we talk about solfeggios, and that's about it from an educational perspective, not necessarily from vibrational frequency perspective.
So I've got a question that's a little bit out there. You might know, what makes people want to dance? What happens within our physiology that when we hear music that we want to move, even if it's just tapping our foot, there's some sort of a movement within us. Do you know? Is that something that's part of it?
I think it's a rhythm.
It's just the rhythm?
The rhythm. Yeah. Because I remember when I was playing just a few weeks ago at this institution, I remember people just come in and then go and come in and go as they like. So the population is developmental disability. That's a population. So your people aging from teenagers to children, teenagers, adults, and some seniors. So it's quite a big range, and people just come and go as they like with their aids, their personal aids. And I remember I was just playing on the piano, just playing some different kinds from different eras. And then I started seeing, like, from the side of my eyes, I started seeing people like dancing like this, even though they didn't want to participate. When I say, hey, come in, I say, oh, no, we're just going to sit over there at the door. Everybody says, no. Even their own caretaker says, oh, no. We're just going to sit at the door because we're going to leave soon. I said, no, just come in, just participate. If you need to leave, just leave. So, oh, no, we're going to do that. But guess what? Everybody's dancing. So I was like, I got it. It must be the rhythm because I play all the waltz. It's all the in threes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all the waltz. And when I asked them afterwards, do you know all those songs? No, we don't know, but we love the beats. They don't know all the terminology, so we love the beats. I said, oh yeah, that's a rhythm. Yes, because I play all the classical waltz. I didn't play anything pop or rap because for them, they love all the pop music, but I didn't play any of that because they didn't participate officially. They just said, oh, we're just going to sit at the door. So I play all the waltz. And even though they didn't understand any of those songs, they don't know much about it, but they were moved by the rhythm.
Yeah. I have also listened to that part of the rhythm that it's applied in the sports. And they need certain rhythm in certain like cycling or running, depending on the ability, whether it is endurance or it is speed. They need certain rhythm of music so that they can maintain the pace. So I also find that amazing, and I use it as I mentioned when I run. I usually leave those songs that I know that they are going to push me at the end because I will need them.
Oh, beautiful. I love music. I think it's incredible. Yeah, no, I've always had music in my life, and I'm so grateful for it. Like, I mean, even my mom, we walk in and she'd be like, "Where's the music in this house?" You know, kind of a thing. And it was just, and I remember just even, I think sometimes even today, if I need to go out, like I'll leave music for my dogs so that they feel like they have some sort of company that is there, which is beautiful. And I also believe that it'll shift the vibrational frequency. So if I'm doing house clearings, I will use music to shift the energy of the space. And yeah, I think music is such an important part of our lives. I couldn't imagine a world without it. Actually, I don't think a world without sound would exist. Because even if we look at that, you know, when God created the world, it was through sound. So I find that to be absolutely incredible. Yeah. Thank you, Jenna, for sharing your insight on all of this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Jennifer, how can you wrap up or just like give a final advice for people that they want to explore this music? Probably not in a therapy session now, but they want to explore these different frequencies. What do you suggest for them to try, or how can it help them to listen to certain kind of music? What recommendations you can make?
Yeah, I get this a lot, by the way. Everybody asks me pretty much that question at the end. So I always say, play whatever that suits you. So if classical music doesn't speak to you, it doesn't have to be classical music, whatever that resonates with you. So for some people, it's pop music, whatever they grew up with, listening to, and that supports them through their tough times. That will be the music for you. Not because so and so says, oh, this is so great, Beethoven's whatever symphony, it has the greatest vibrational frequency, supposed to clearing. No. Listen to what your heart says to you. Whatever that moves you, whatever that drives you, whatever that resonates with you, that's the music for you. And in terms of how to use it, I think right now we have so many different ways of playing music. Even Spotify, for example, or Apple Music is so readily available now. It's not like in the past, you need to go into your car to turn on the radio, you know, or like go home, play your CDs or cassette tapes. So now it's so readily available, just whatever that works for you. And at the time that works for you, don't play whenever you feel like, oh, people told me when I'm sad, I must listen to music in order to get myself feel better. No. There's no musts, shoulds, any of that. So whenever you feel, even when washing dishes, if that's a time you feel suits you most, then play music during washing your dishes. If cleaning and listening to music works for you the best to get yourself out of that misery or whatever you're going through, then do it. It doesn't have to be like, I have to sit down on my couch, leaning against the sofa, making sure my feet are up, making sure I put on headphones. None of that. So I tell people there's no such rules, nothing. So whatever speaks to you, whatever works for you, that's the best music therapy for you. And everybody can do it. Everyone.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on this podcast today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us and with everybody that watches. Thank you, David, for being a great co-host. And yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, everyone that is listening, that will listen. And just, I always encourage people to ask questions and to contact the guests. So where can people contact you, Jennifer? How can they find you?
I don't have a website at this point, but I can provide you with my email. So if people want to contact me, they can contact me via email.
Okay, perfect. We
Okay.
will leave that in the description so that people can contact you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.